right. I think we're live, guys. So what I'm gonna do is we'll let a couple people come on in. And then we'll get started. So like I was saying, I think maybe we do something like this maybe once a week or so. Maybe have a couple different people on, but I think it's cool to meet with people and just talk, like kind of recap what's happened over the last week or so. And in the week in DeFi is like a month in DeFi, right? So lots of things happen, and it's cool just to be able to chop it up with the boys and see how everyone is doing. So this is the first time I've gone live, so I'm just what's up, Greg? I'm just trying to figure out all this stuff. We got a couple people watching already, but cool. So today we have our good friends Ludo, and I'm just going to call you Remy. Does that work for you?
That works.
Okay, cool. That's what Ludo told me. I'm tired of saying RM3.
It's catching on. I knew it would.
Yeah. It is catching on.
So I brought the boys on today to talk a little bit about what's been going on this past week in DeFi. It's, of course, been quite eventful, like every other week in DeFi. But specifically about Remy on to kind of talk about a couple of different topics. So Remy has been one of the people that I've been able to go to help me kind of vet projects and just talk about things where my knowledge doesn't like different areas in DeFi or crypto that I don't have knowledge in. So I've been kind of leaning on a couple of other different people to help me, like I said, vet projects or just dig a little bit into some more projects. And Remy has been one of those people. So guys, welcome on to the first live on the channel. So pretty cool.
Thank you for having me, Murdoch. I'm happy to be here and happy to be part of this journey that you're embarking in. It's going to be an interesting journey as we keep growing as DeFi, or always hits us with unexpected circumstances and situations. But we're here to grow and scale.
Yeah, it's been crazy for sure. And then Ludo just launched Dauntless, and they had a successful mint. I believe things are closed up now, but congratulations to you on that, man. That's pretty cool to see. And knowing or having been known you for quite some time, it's cool to see all those things that we talk about privately in DMs and stuff like that kind of come to fruition for you. So congratulations, man.
Oh, thank you. Yep. And that goes just as much to Remy as it does to me and to you and for everybody who's been part of it kind of going forward. We did go ahead and we have launched our second bot in the project. So now we're with Cardinal Chirps and Shiny Jackal. Hopefully we'll get bread bites going on here today or tomorrow. We'll see how things go, but appreciate it. Shout out.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that's like, at least for me, I'm trying to shift away from like being super degenerate. So if you guys are watching this, if you've been a long time subscriber, I've always been the type of person that loves to gamble. And sometimes, well, most times at my own detriment, right? So I'm trying to like shift not only the way that I talk about the projects that I talk about here on the channel, but also too like my own personal investment strategy. So I've recently put a bunch of capital behind 6 different bots, and I'm excited to be able to share with you guys that journey too. And obviously those are things that take a little bit more time to develop, but very, very cool. So Remy, let's kind of get into, I think one place I would like to start is kind of like the things that we talked about, like you and I this week at least. So I was approached by a project that wanted to do an AMA here on the channel, and I did an intro call with them. They got on video with me. They're completely doxed, all that stuff. And through like my vetting process, I did some digging on the project and found some very, very concerning accusations. And you want to like kind of touch on that, or should we get into that more? What do you think?
Yes, that is an interesting circumstance. Lots of red flags.
Mm.
And I've actually, you and Yabonks have done some great research. Yabonks is a madman when it comes to that type of thing.
It's wild, dude.
He's done hours of research. We
Yeah.
talked for a few hours regarding that individual and that protocol. And the thing that strikes me as interesting is that the ongoing accusations and criminal investigations regarding that individual are quite steep in the
Right.
United Kingdom
Yeah.
and in Singapore. And what doesn't add up for me is when an individual is facing such crimes. Me personally, or anyone with common sense, wouldn't think, "Wow, this is a great time to launch a DeFi protocol."
Yeah.
Right? I told you amongst this and other YouTubers that approached me. I said, usually where there's smoke, there's a fire, right? Because at first, when you look at the accusations online, they seem like a lot of and from anonymous Pepe the Frogs on
Right.
forums, and
Mhm.
then you start digging, and then you see accusations from employees, and then you hear his side of the story, right? In the previous interview he just had, and usually it's not one way or the other, right? Usually it's somewhere in the middle when it comes to these situations. And all credit to Yabonks. Yabonks found court filings, and
Yeah.
actually he has his trial is on February 1st.
Yeah.
Less than
Next week.
about 4 days. And like I told you, Bonks, and I told you, Murdoch, privately, is you have to protect your community and your audience at all costs. You guys' influence is very great, and it's much more powerful than I think you guys realize. And even to have an individual like that on your channel, even if you're gonna expose them and ask him
Mm.
the hard questions, you're still gonna give him a platform.
Right. And that's what I was thinking about doing. Right. And I even posed this question in my premium Discord. It's like, okay, well, I have a project that wants to come on and do an AMA. I did some digging myself and Yabonks, and there was a ton of information uncovered about this guy. And it was the same. I found out about that information the same day that I had the AMA scheduled for. And there was part of me that was like, okay, well, do I just record the AMA anyways and try to expose this guy, ask him these questions while he's candid with me, not knowing I was going to ask about these questions. But then it's like it's also, if I did that way, of course, there's still going to be people that have something negative to say because I still gave them exposure, and I haven't even said their name, and I'm not going to. Um, but just know that it's a project that other YouTubers are talking about, and I'm not going to give them exposure. But if you want to join any of my socials, linked down below, then I'll happily tell you what's going on and what project that is. But it just presents such a unique set of circumstances that is sometimes hard to navigate. But like after talking with you and just kind of like allowing myself some time to think about it, is it really worth bringing him on the channel and still giving him that exposure, knowing well, like you said, like he's facing all these accusations online, and at the moment, like sure they're just accusations, but when I was talking to you, like sometimes if there's fraud in crypto or something like that, and the 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 legal bodies involved are investigating things like that stuff takes a long period of time, right? So it's not like we can get like set information to know like, hey, for sure this guy's a scammer. We can only base our information on what we can find out there, and what we found was not good, right? And then while talking with the guy too, it was like he reminded me of Brian Legend, to be honest. He had a story or he had a rebuttal for every question that I asked him, um, and he was just like the victim and all this stuff. So it's such a tough thing to navigate it. But ultimately, I decided not to allow him to come on the channel and get exposure, right? So
Absolutely. And those situations, a lot of them are catch 22s, right? This
Mhm.
individual's doxed. He's very transparent on who he is. Everyone knows who he is. But the problems we face today is kind of a barrier of entry between legal authorities and them prosecuting crypto criminals in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So his company before, right, was extremely successful, and it was based out of UK and Singapore, which are very two strict bodies and jurisdictions when it comes to crypto regulations and how they operate with AML and ATF, so anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing.
Yeah.
And like I said, you just mentioned it. Those investigations take a lot of time, right? Because they have to investigate off chain and on chain, right? So everything they verify off chain, they're going to have to verify it on chain as well.
Yeah.
And the issue we see as well is a lot of these jurisdictions always have a cost benefit analysis. They ask themselves, is this worth it to go after this individual? Even if they know he committed a crime or not, it's going to take a lot of time and money for them to prove it. So
Right.
it has to be beneficial to the governing body for them to really go after the individual or entity that committed a crime. And that's what we see here in the States.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to the second thing that I wanted to talk about that has happened this week too, which is kind of crazy. And we touched on this briefly in DMs, but like there was a group that was created, I believe, based off of what happened with Stable Fund, right? So there was
Hmm.
the initial name of the group was like Angry Stable Fund Investors, which I totally get. Look, I lost a ton of money there too, and it sucks. Um, so they created a Discord group, and I was in the group, and they were also looking into other projects that rugged, Rely Fund, Circulate Finance, or Circulate Money, all those guys as well. And they were also like documenting like red flags on certain projects and stuff like that. And and I think it's interesting too because to my knowledge, that group is no longer. And it's also very strange because when you think about it, if you're very public about investigating these types of people that are scamming people or taking people's money and disappearing in crypto or DeFi in general, um, you're dealing with a very different type of person than like you or I, right? Somebody
Hmm.
that doesn't care or has no regard for your mental or physical well being, for that matter,
Yep.
and typically has almost an unlimited number of money to be able to do whatever they want in the space, right? So that's also I mean, it's kind of scary, right? Like if you are trying to investigate people that don't want to be investigated, and then all of a sudden, like that group just disappeared. Even the owner of the group, I was trying to talk to him about this project that we were talking about earlier when we first started this conversation, um, and I was getting nothing back from him. So I don't know if he's just gone or if they hacked into his stuff, but man, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, so that individual and that group kind of came about, like you said, with Stable Fund, and they're garnering quite a lot of attention for their investigative work on chain.
Yeah.
But there's certain lines in DeFi and just in business you cannot cross, especially in DeFi. It's the wild wild west, and those individuals started to look into to dox people and threaten them, and were going about it in a harmful way. And for someone who's been in DeFi a while, like myself in crypto, that will is a short lifespan.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think DeFi is kind of an innocent kind of, oh, it's just a new era. There's some scammers here and there. DeFi has a lot of high level crime, criminal syndicates, and it is a much more dangerous game than people want to realize. And I would not be surprised if that individual was hacked and got all of his information deleted, and was then kind of banished from the realms of Telegram and Discord. I've seen that before. It's not the first time.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a very delicate game, and you have to go about it the right way.
Yeah. And so this guy, Binance Stuff, I believe he's also a YouTuber. So if you guys are watching this, check out his channel as well. but I'm pretty sure Binance stuff. I'm pretty sure that that's the same group. I believe it was called the Watchers, and the guy that found it was, I think he went by Human KYC, which I talked to a bunch in regards to the circulate money rug that happened. Just trying to give them as much information as possible so they could investigate on things that I wasn't or knew how to do in terms of like on chain stuff, right? So yeah, it's just crazy. Like they were here one day and then gone the next. So it's like, well, how do you find the balance there of like wanting to pursue investigations and trying to stand up for DeFi as a whole, but without trying to alert too many people. So it's like almost like these things have to be done quietly. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not in the public light.
Yeah, they have to be done in the shadows, as we say. A lot of the work on chain, analytical work, and our specialists do and are very good at. It's very tough because people run a lot of these funds through mixers and through centralized exchanges.
Yeah.
And the work we do has to be behind the curtains, because you do not want to be put in the limelight when it comes to KYCs, audits, and security work, right? Because you're going to call out scams, and then those people are going to come for you, and it's going to create a whole hassle in the public light. And the most important thing here is trying to provide the community with as much transparency that these projects provide when it comes to strict code review through the KYCs, right? When we do a KYC or an audit, it's neither pass or fail, right? It's letting the community know if they're in a jurisdiction, that they're tangible, and that we know that the financial intelligence unit there will actually do something and pursue a crime, or if they're in a third world country where the financial intelligence unit does not exist and they have no idea what Ethereum is or anything of that nature, right? So like I said, it's done behind the scenes. And when people go about the way they did it with doxing is not the correct way. Like I said, the community does not need to know the information of the individual, right? The mob does not need to know. If a crime is committed, a case file is put together and sent off to the respected legal authorities for them to handle it.
Right. Well, even when you think about, like, let's just say somebody important got murdered or something like that. Like when we talk about like crimes that don't involve finances, like a lot of the information, like the detectives and the police and things like that, are not distributing to the public. But also conversely too, like something I do or see all the time is like if somebody goes missing, I can't remember the name of that girl that went missing in the United States.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was like all these kinds of internet sleuths that were trying to like dig up and find things. But it was almost like sometimes that could be detrimental to the actual investigations, like behind the scenes too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, because you start coming up with these false narratives and then false accusations, and you find the wrong person, right? So when it comes to, TKY saying something bad happens and we're able to investigate internally, right? So they go through a full suite of security measures such as KYC, full audits that includes manual review of unit and regression tests, and a little bit sprinkled of dynamic analysis. And then they're put on our Wallet Watcher platform. And let's say, God forbid, something does happen. We investigate internally. We look at the on-chain analytics. We look at the audit report and we say, hey, an exploit was not possible here. So if they come out and say it was a hack, that is false. It must have come internally from the team. Then we look at the respective KYC information. We bundle it together with the on-chain analytics, such as the transactions where the money went, send it to the respected legal body, right? And also, if we get a KYC from someone who is, for example, in Kenya or Nigeria, right, and these underdeveloped countries, we would be very transparent about that. We will not hold that back. We won't say what country, but we'll just say that they're not in a spot where the respected jurisdiction will go about any financial crime.
Right, because the places like that, it's hard to even prosecute somebody, even if they are KYC'd and supply you with all accurate information, right?
Exactly, because
Yeah.
the legal bodies there do not have quite the understanding of blockchain and distributed ledger technology that we might see here in Canada, the States, either UK or in Australia or Singapore. So it creates a very delicate game. And when we get individuals like that, they really have to go through our strenuous full scope of audit measures and audit security. And that kind of creates still even with that, there's still some mistakes and some errors that can be partook by their side. There can still be an internal hack, but
Yeah.
like I said, it's best security plus best education equals best result. Because when you're doing security in crypto and DeFi, and I've been part of cybersecurity now for many years, a lot of things can go wrong, right? That are completely out of your control. And if you educate the community and you're transparent and they kind of know how to handle these situations and they have the wallet watcher, then they're able to navigate the situation much easier and much better when
Right.
something malicious is going on. But like I said, it's all about scaling and getting better. And as the technological market becomes more robust, it becomes an easier game.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that some of these countries as well that a lot of these scammers are coming out of are focused not only on maybe like you said, Remy, they don't have the technology, but places like Nigeria don't have enough food and are getting hit by especially some of the inflation that's going on right now.
Right.
So a lot of their resources are being diverted to things that are much more prevalent that are affecting their citizens, and they couldn't care. They couldn't, like you said earlier, it's a cost benefit analysis to them. I mean, are they worried about the people that lost, a couple grand each across the world? Or are they worried about their own citizens? And you can't really fault them, when it comes to that. I mean, you wish you could. You wish there was something in place to make that happen. But other than rogues taking things in their own hands, and I don't really see anything like that coming anytime soon. That's just going to require a bunch of centralization, so otherwise.
Exactly. I actually, for example, there was a hack about a year ago, and I got asked to go investigate it and help with the regulatory bodies that, where the hacker sent the funds to, and it was Malawi. So you could,
Where's that?
It's in Africa, and you can imagine the trouble that was. And like you said, they just, at the end of the day, they simply did not care, and they simply did not understand exactly what was going on. So when it comes to doing a TKYC, a really thorough know your client, customer, company, entity, you have to be extremely transparent in your report of where they're from. I'm not specifically saying, because that could be a form of doxing as well.
Right.
But you have to be transparent with the community, saying, listen, if something bad happens, it's going to be very, very hard for these people to be brought to justice and for you to get your money back. So please, if you do partake in this ecosystem, please act responsibly. And then at some points, we don't even bring that to our community, right? Because we're giving them a platform. Unless they go through our full security suite, then we will discuss internally if we're going to bring it to our community. But if they do not, we will not bring that to our community.
Well, I think that also poses an interesting thing too, right? Like, let's just take Alpha Capital, for instance, and that whole thing that happened with True Seekers and everybody. You guys reported your findings based on the KYC attempt, and since the protocol was already live, you had a lot of naysayers within their Telegram community, like, talking negatively about you. And I think sure, like, Lou could have handled that a little bit differently, but hindsight's 2020, right? And if he was trying to warn people about, like, hey, this is a red flag, like, you guys might want to be careful, and then getting backlash for that's also, that's what do you do there? If you feel like, okay, well, we found out a red flag, we tried to warn people, And then, you know, at the end of the day, they're able to say, you know, I kind of told you so based on what they found and what had happened, right? Now, I think with Alpha Capital, like they've gone ahead and refunded people, but that's just one instance, right? So it's also, yeah, it's such a tough thing to do, and Binance stuff says the trouble with doing things behind the scenes is that innocent people with not much money are losing money now. So I think
I mean, they know what they're getting into, though.
I do see that side of the spectrum too. I do see the side where people should ultimately take responsibility for their actions. That's just coming from me, and that's where I'm at. Like in terms of how I view my own life, like anytime I get myself into something, like I know for me, the right thing to do is take or accept responsibility for my action, but also too, you know, a lot of this comes down to how well the developers behind a project can act, right? And we've seen some crazy acting going on the last couple of weeks. So it's also concerning. It's like where do we where do we as a community come together? Where do we draw the line? And I think for me, and that this is what I was talking about in the beginning, is just maybe trying to focus on running my own bots, and and having more control over my capital as opposed to just giving it to some project that launched within the last 24 hours and says all the right things. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. And the thing is here too is, right, the security will always scale and always get better. But the thing here is education is absolutely key.
yeah,
The community needs to be educated on how to act responsibly, and a lot of their education will come through experience. And when you educate your community, you make them 100% responsible and accountable for their actions, regardless. You gave them the tools, you help them sharpen it, and then they can now go partake in the wild, wild west. And the thing I love about DeFi is people get to be their own banks, right?
yep.
They get to have complete control over their own finances, which we have really never seen before, right? They get to know exactly what fees are included in everything they partake in, how to manage risk, reward, and kind of going through the whole Rolodex of kind of the things they have to learn when it comes to being financially literate. It makes for a very interesting game, as you could say.
Right.
Like, because people, YouTubers and influencers, then tend to get the blame because they said, oh, they promoted this or they promoted that, right? Which is true, can, be held in this and have some validity to it, but also it's, it's their money, right? It's their keys, it's their coins. So it's ultimately their responsibility. And I think when you combine both best education and best security, you tend to get the best result. And I think people who are in influential situations should really focus and hone down on educating their respected followings. And I really think that would be advantageous for all parties involved.
Yeah.
And I understand that the selling and marketing of these protocols that could have great potential. Unfortunately, we're in such an immature kind of technological bubble when it comes to DeFi, and it's really hasn't scaled to the point of where we're not. There's a lot of scammers, right? There's been a report on Uniswap, and there's 96% of the protocols that launch on Uniswap end up rugging.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
So, what you say there?
I said, good Lord.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's we're not going to be out of that anytime soon unless there's some type of regulation. But when people talk about regulation, the government at the end of the day doesn't want crypto to exist. They don't want DeFi to exist. They don't want people to be their own bank, right? They don't want to be in this decentralized ecosystem, right? The government wants everything to be centralized. And so if they're looking at it from a regulatory standpoint, they're going to say, okay, if we regulate it, then that might add more liquidity into that ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
It might onboard more capital. But they say if we leave it unregulated and things like FTX, Celsius, Luna keep happening, we're just going to destroy ourselves, right? So it's really up to us, the community, and I mean, the anonymous Pepe the Frogs to really
Yeah.
scale DeFi and centralized finance. It is absolutely unequivocally true. The power is all with the people. We saw it with Reddit and 4chan. They bankrupted GameStop. I mean, not
Right.
GameStop, but the hedge fund
Yeah.
that was trading via GameStop about a year ago. But a little ramble there. But like I said, it's really up to the influential individuals to educate their communities instead of marketing and shilling protocols that will be lucky if they last a month.
Yeah, and Binance stuff says, and this is something that I totally agree with too, right? Like even when it comes to education in like maybe not elementary school, but in high school and things like that, like people are not taught about finances and how to understand how money works and all this stuff, right? So like the education piece also like goes as far as that, which is crazy, and it seems like that's such a large thing to try to tackle, you know.
Yeah, it is, and Binance stuff makes a good point talking about how most governments don't want people to understand their finance, right, or
Right.
understand how to manage and be their own bank, right? The government wants everyone to be reliable on them, and when people start taking finances under their own control, then they don't have to rely on the respected government. So, I think that is, I think that's one of the reasons why. But here in DeFi, it kind of breaks that mold. And the thing about DeFi is I really haven't seen a space where people can change their lives so fast and make so much money in a short amount of time. And the
Right.
problem that comes with that is those people are usually not financially literate, so they end up losing all of it. We've seen it in the bull run, right? People making millions and millions of dollars off of JPEGs, and then they're 5 months later they're deleting their Twitter saying they hate crypto.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's important. He also said that let's see, a DeFi should be more about getting a mortgage and cutting out the bank in the process, and not baked beans miners. And I couldn't agree more, man. I think though that I think that there's always probably going to be a place in DeFi that part of DeFi will exist,
Mhm.
and the reason being is because it's just like gambling, right? Like in and of itself, it's an addiction too, just like gambling is. Um, like you get a huge surge in dopamine if you get into a project early and it just happens to work out and you make a bunch of money before it inevitably rugs, right? So
Yeah.
and like people get addicted to that feeling. But like you said, you know, they sure they can make money pretty quick, but they typically end up losing it, you know, sometimes even faster than they made it in the first place, right? So
Yeah,
crazy. Well,
absolutely.
cool. Do you guys have anything on your radar? I guess we could say new projects or otherwise.
Yeah, specifically. So I'm trying to talk to as many projects I think I can, whether that's through DeFi Soapbox or through Dauntless, more predominantly now. But I just had a nice long chat with, God, I can't ever remember how to actually pronounce his name, but we talked on Discord last night. Kyr, Kyr, Cyrokir. Anyway, he is one of the head guys over at Oburns, at Only
Okay.
Burns. And
Cyril?
Cyril, yeah,
Yeah.
Cyril Kier. Anyway, one of the head guys over there. And he was just walking me through what they're trying to offer, these burns as a service. But he also has a lot of other stuff under the radar that he's kind of doing and working with. And it was definitely reassuring. The only issue that I find with the whole prospect is that a lot of these projects that are looking for a burn is usually because they need it, right?
Yeah.
Because they, are probably not very sustainable in their in some of the things that they're doing. But that I don't, that doesn't mean all of them are that way. I know they are looking to have a really, really big burn sale, which would, long story short, projects can purchase their token Oburn and then burn it. Then that goes towards lifting them up in this race. And if they win the race by burning more tokens in the next project, they will get a massive buy of their token, and then which will be burnt.
Right.
Which would increase their price. But what that also has to do is increase the Oburn price because and he's trying to incorporate some other utility when it comes to some concentrated liquidity and stuff. So we've been talking ad nauseum about that. I know I've talked to Remy about it a little bit. That's a really interesting subject that I think could be very interesting for people. But yeah, Oburns, that's kind of what I've been looking into the last 2 days or so.
Yeah, cool. Remy, what about you, man? You're all over the place, so.
Yeah. yes, I am. But the right now for new protocols in DeFi, nothing super in particular. Right now, I think we're kind of in a tough position because in DeFi, what you get is you get these cycles, and what happens is you get one protocol that does really well, and then you get 99 clones that end up rugging like $100 million, and everyone kind of sidelines and sits and waits. And especially in bear market, right? We've never really seen DeFi go through a super rough bear market like we've seen in the past year.
Yeah.
And being in DeFi and crypto for so long, it just kind of comes with experience, and intuition is in the bear market, you're going to see a lot more scams and hard rugs than you would in the bull market. And the reason for that is someone could launch any type of cryptocurrency they would want, any meme project in the bull market like we saw, and it could do 100x, and they would make way more money doing that than actually rugging. But now protocols have to have some type of value, some type of substance, right? And that's hard to come by, and that takes a lot of hard work. So here in the bear market, we're going to see a bunch of clones and we're going to see a bunch of rugs. What we've seen in the past, 2 weeks with like 5 protocols rugging over about $2 million.
Yeah.
And I think, that can be prevented through education. And
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely crazy. But right now, I've been working for about 2.5 years with a stable coin that is rather massive. We work with Clifford Chance and PricewaterhouseCoopers, Lloyd's of London. I've helped with some compliance in the United Arab Emirates and Europe. And we just integrated with most of the banks in Europe, and we're getting ready to launch here in Q1 of 2023. I've been part of them now for 2 years, and yeah, it's exciting. But like I said, I think money, as a whole, is why the reason Bitcoin is considered a store of values, because it's limited supply and the fact it's decentralized at its core.
Yep.
Right. And kind of going on a little bit of a rant here. The thing is fiat hasn't really developed and it hasn't scaled in 100 years. And if you learn anything about history, fiat always ends up dying. And it's never a good thing, right? Hyperinflation is inevitable, and it's time for money to scale with all the technology we have. Right, in 1933, when they got rid of gold certificates, and then in 71 when they took us off the gold standard, really the dollar lost all value, even more than it had before. Right now, it's backed by the military, and it's created an interesting paradigm in the financial sector of kind of what's going to be the escape route for people when it comes to inflation and how to hedge against it.
Yeah, I definitely think that this year we're going to see some crazy stuff. I know that people, I think that the bears are still calling for 13K Bitcoin or whatever. I mean, I'm not convinced that that's going to be the case just based on what's currently happening. But who knows, right? I feel like this is also unprecedented times, politically, all this stuff, man. So it's kind of crazy.
Sorry, I was just reading, Murdoch. I was just reading in your premium Discord, which is a lot to read right now. So I was glancing through that real quick.
Oh, what is somebody saying?
Oh, there's people are talking about Relife Fund. They're talking about CAT, this a protocol, I guess, called CAT.
Oh, yeah. They stay. Let me see if I can pull that up. That's not something that I got into just because it's super scammy.
Yeah.
To me, there's another one. What's the other one that's similar to that as well? The AMZ Doge one.
Yeah.
I never got into just because it seemed super sketchy. Like you couldn't even access their you couldn't even access their website from like a regular PC. It was like they only had a mobile site. So yeah, it's a little crazy. But that one, the CAP protocol one, I believe that they just recently stopped
Pause withdrawals.
Right, like they pause withdrawals for KYC, and it's probably like, to be honest, it's probably a load of shit, and they're probably just
Not probably.
Right.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the reality is that those are all Ponzi's, and it's really not hard to figure out those. I am kind of curious though on how PGV is progressing. So I know that they've kind of switched over to using this one main contract, and they're changing. Let me see if I can pull it up on Discord real quick. They're changing a couple of things as it pertains to like now the way that the contract is paying out is based on like the daily percentages. So it's like an average instead of like that standard like 2% that we have been seeing.
Which is definitely a step in the right direction. Like you would ultimately want to see a project do something like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's taken this long is a little sketch. You're right. How was that 2% happening?
Well, I don't know if they're like trying to cover ground, because I'm pretty sure that the old contracts are still paying out that 2% a day.
Oh, wow.
So what I've been doing is just going in and reinvesting directly through the smart contract, because I haven't received my full deposit refund yet. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I know that Pocket Aces is the resident video / mod over there now, which is cool. That's good for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of projects for me, what I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at Chirp with Austin Clark over in Cardinal House. Like I said, I've been playing with a bunch of my own bots. So on Astrobit, I'm running a new bot from a new company that just got listed on Astrobit called Warp Bots. So I'm running a strategy called Spear 44, and that's trading Polkadot. I haven't opened any trades on that yet, and then I'm also running Cinnamon Toast, which has yet to open any trades there either. But that's all. I have it all set up through Bybit right now, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Oh, there's Austin. Austin says, not a fan of PGV. No shot they have 100% win rate. Trading bot Manny isn't fully transparent with the bot performance, and that's interesting, Austin, because when I was running my Shiny Jackal bots, and this might be the case for them, right? When I was running my Shiny Jackal bots before FTX went down, and they did extremely well for the time that I had them up. Obviously, they weren't up because of what happened with FTX, but the way that they worked, they were like DCA bots. They used a kind of like this hybrid martingale strategy, and they really wouldn't take any losses, provided that your liquidation points were set up correctly. It would just dollar cost average into your position until like the position was in profit, and then it would close out the trade in profit. So essentially, like the way it looked like there weren't any losing trades, but however, like some trades would be open and running for a month at a time before they closed out profitable. So curious, Austin, I'd be curious to get your feedback on that.
I have to say, Austin is extremely transparent about the Cardinal Chirp's bot performance, and that is an extremely green flag. And I have to respect him for that, because not a lot of people are transparent about their bot performance, and he is very transparent.
He's a little too transparent.
Right.
And I say that because I say that, and he's going to laugh. I hope he's still here.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there was a guy in our Discord who was giving him grief and talking about how he didn't trust him. And Austin's like, dude, I've been in DeFi forever, and everybody knows who I am. And I was like, hey, I trust him, and that's why we're investing. The guy's like, nah.
Right.
It was very boomer-esque, but anyway, Austin, you're too transparent, man. Dial it back.
So Ebog says Pocket Aces put so much time and effort into helping the PGV community. Some guys in my server help him go through the code so he can make detailed videos explaining how it works for people. And I think that that's cool. And I think one thing that Pocket, if I could just stand in a soapbox and talk about him for a second, one thing that he's really nailed in is like getting into communities with YouTubers that are already pretty big and being able to provide value. And I think that he's seen some pretty good growth in his channel just for having that mindset of going in and leading with providing value to other influencers, communities, and it's clearly been reflecting back on him, the good karma, so to speak. But very cool to be a part of that journey too. He's killing it for sure. All righty, guys. Well, I think we've been live for 45 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. But like I said, let's try to do this maybe on a weekly basis, just kind of recap things that have happened over the last week in DeFi in general. And yeah, if anybody has any questions that or wants to get a little bit more information on what we were talking about in the beginning of the stream, then happily just shoot me a DM, and would love to give you that information, or I'll post it up in my community Telegram and Discord as well. That being said, thank you guys so much for joining us. Ludo, thanks, man. Remy already left, but
See you, bud.
I'm glad that he was here. All right, guys.